Welcome back. Most of you probably know this gentleman next to me already from a previous video. It's Tobias Sieber. Hello again, Tobias.
Hi.
Great to still have you. In the last video, which you find here, we have been talking about Liberica in general. Tobias gave us a lot of information about Liberica. And after that video, we have been super busy and prepared some information for you. So we have new learnings about Liberica, about Excelsa, and I would say let's start now with the video. Shall we tell people what we've did in the meantime?
Yes, so you said we have a lot of learning, and that is actually really the case. So basically, yes, we have knowledge of like other institutions that I have read before, but we haven't tested it ourselves. So I came here and said, let's test the density, but let's also test the caffeine. And so what we did first, we tested the density between Robusta, Canephora, Excelsa, Liberica, and Coffee Arabica.
Yeah.
With your machines.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, we have here the Lightels meter, which is for the moisture content of the coffee and also for the density of the coffee. So we did 4 samples of each coffee where we measured density and moisture content in order to have results that we can work with.
Now, so in theory, we know, or we have learned that as lower altitude, as lower density. However, our results were...
Yeah, let's talk about the results a bit later.
Okay, then
go back to what we did then afterwards. Afterwards, we were roasting then all the coffees on the link roaster in order to have then the same color of coffee. You'll see here we've roasted a Canephora from India, then we've roasted an Arabica from Brazil, a natural Yirgacheffe. Since the Libericas that you brought with you, there are 2 Libericas from about the same region, from different farms in about the same region, and 1 Excelsa. Since all of them are naturally processed, we then also went into Arabicas that are naturally processed. Only the Parchment, the India Parchment, is a washed processed coffee. So we roasted them to all about the same level with the link roaster, and then we prepared the cupping and did an analysis of the chlorogenic acid and caffeine content with the Lightels meter. And before we maybe go into the measurements, we could start talking a little bit about the taste, because now we have all the different kind of coffees next to each other.
Yes, exactly. So we have them next to each other, and what we did in order to do the measurement the same, we let them cool down to basically room temperature.
Yeah.
And so like what I can tell now is only how I tasted them cold.
Yeah.
And so yes, there are differences. There are immense differences. So yes, let's start with the Parchment. This is, for me, like I had what I know from Robusta, from a Parchment Robusta. It had this woody feeling, this woody flavors, a little bit astringent. Yes, it stayed quite long on in the mouth.
Yeah.
Yes, and then more to the Arabica.
Yeah, I had the same here. Then with the Arabicas, we have 2 quite different qualities. One is a natural Brazilian coffee, really like a classic quality. It has this round mouth feel. It has some sweetness in it, but not extremely a lot of sweetness, but some sweetness, low acidity, very mild, very very common taste. It's not a polarizing coffee, but it's a pleasant coffee. Then we went to the natural Yirgacheffe, which is...
This is a really nice one. It has some like fruity and floral flavors to me. It has also a higher acidity and a higher sweetness.
Yes.
Really nice sweetness, and that was really interesting because it was just next to Liberica. Now, we were talking before in the other video that Liberica has a higher sweetness. Did you taste that sweetness?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really... Liberica's even sweeter than the natural Yirgacheffe, which is already a super sweet, naturally processed. It's already a super sweet Arabica, but this was even sweeter. I think like here, I had a bit of different taste profile. It was a bit more, as you said before, like this Asian fruits, maybe a bit like this jackfruit, banana fruit. The sweetness for me was super intense. And we talked a little bit about the sweetness before, and I also recognize it as a bit this sweetness of stevia sweetener.
Yeah, we discussed we discussed the sweetness, and it is a different kind of sweetness. It didn't feel like the sugar sweetness. Yeah. That is quite interesting to see as a comparison. And the other interesting fact is the acidity is also different. You described it as more as a apple acidity. Yeah. Whereas, so in comparison to the
I had a bit the apple acidity in the Yirgacheffe.
Mm-hmm. Did you taste any difference between the two Libericas? Because again, like they're from the same region in Malaysia, from this almost the same altitude, from just two different farms.
Yeah, they were quite similar. What I had here, in my opinion, a bit like more uniformity. It was a bit more balanced. Mm-hmm. This one was more extreme in the taste, and this one is quite the same taste profile, but a bit less extreme, a bit less polarizing, but quite beautifully balanced. That was a bit the difference I had between those two coffees.
I like to actually hear this, because like 1 year ago when we compared them also, we actually said, okay, let's call this one the balanced one, and like you actually used the words that how we called it, and yeah, that's also how I see it. They're like quite similar, but then like this one is more balanced, so this one would be more to be different if and this one is like the balanced one, but then still like really the same. Now, does Liberica and Excelsa taste the same to you?
Quite different, and the Excelsa is for me quite an interesting coffee. Mm-hmm. So the taste difference is different. It is much less sweet. It is less interesting. What I had a bit in mind when I tasted it was it has some similar qualities to a Canephora, but it doesn't have this woody taste. So I actually think, in my opinion, this could be quite an interesting alternative to Canephora, because it has low in acidity. It has still a nice body. Could be a nice coffee for an espresso if you have it then really compromised. So it's similar to a Canephora, but it doesn't have this woody taste that often Canephoras have.
Yeah, for me, it's the same actually. For me, I was really surprised on also the body like of this Excelsa. It was also smooth. Yes, I also compared it quite to the Canephora. Also interesting because it is actually from the same region, about the same altitude, but not as like aggressive as the Canephora. Yeah, this is quite interesting, but again, to show a little bit, it is a huge difference, Liberica to Excelsa. That we can say. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. You cannot put it in the same pot.
Yeah.
Shall we go into the results that we had? So when we measured density, we came up with, when we start with the Parchment had quite a high density. It was actually one of the densest coffee with 811 grams per liter. The only coffee that was a bit denser, or let's say it's more or less the same, is the Kendall, House of Kendall Liberica, which has also about 813 grams per liter. Then next one was the Excelsa and the natural Yirgacheffe, who were in density a little bit lower, but about in the same regions, or about 800 grams per liter. And then we had the MyLiberica, which was quite less dense than the Kendall Liberica, with 777 grams per liter. And the softest was the Arabica natural
from Brazil.
From Brazil with 752 grams per liter.
It was, to me, quite surprising to see this result because, first of all, we have this extreme with the Brazilian that is like the lowest in density, but in altitude it is not as low as the Liberica, for example. It is around the same like the Excelsa. Yeah, the difference is not as clear as I have learned in theory and I have read from other coffee institutions that actually also check the density. Or also the result doesn't say or like doesn't show the reflection of lower altitude, less density.
Yeah.
It didn't show this reflection now in our try.
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's really interesting.
So just one learning I can really recommend you is don't rely on any assumptions of where the density might come from in the coffee. Really use a simple process to use the density in each coffee before you roast it. You can take a standardized cup and then compare the coffees and measure the density like this. Makes much more sense than have assumptions on density because of altitude or varietal or whatever. But now from density, let's go into the topic we've been looking forward to very much. We had assumptions or we had scientific papers that we read where it stated that Liberica has much more caffeine than Arabicas. We had papers where it stated that it has much less caffeine than Arabica. What did we learn?
So in our coffees that we compared, there is not a clear answer. So basically we've learned that they have almost the same caffeine than Arabica. That was really surprising because never have I read somewhere that it has the same. We really have rather read it has way more or way less, but it is literally about in the same caffeine content. Maybe for what that says in the number. In the numbers, we have the two Arabicas that have between 55.2 and 51.1 compared to the two Libericas, which is also interesting. They have a difference. There is between 42.4 and 64. So this was actually interesting. I found that really interesting to see because we have here now two Libericas, same region, same process, same altitude, just two different farmers. And they have like quite a significant difference between 42.4 and 64. Yeah. Yes, that's interesting.
That was also, I mean, I did once, and this is a video that will follow on this channel a bit later, an analysis of all the Arabicas we have in the assortment and the Canephoras. And we saw that like the Arabica range, I mean, there is quite a variance, but it's about in the range of what we had here. Like this, in this protocol that we did here, it was about 55 or 51 to 56 milligrams per deciliter. Yeah, and Liberica is more or less, if you take the middle of the two samples in the same range, we had bigger differences. Maybe one thing we have to tell here is we did just a sample of, 6 coffees now. So this is not a scientific study. We would need to have much more coffees in order to have representative figures. But still it gives us an indication that you cannot really clearly differentiate Liberica from Arabica when it comes to caffeine content. The coffee that has much more caffeine than those two is Canephora. With Canephora, Robusta, you see about double the amount of caffeine. So here it was 93.5. Parchment is one with a quite high content of caffeine, but you see it's about double the amount of caffeine. So yeah, no huge difference. Now the question is
there a difference in Excelsa?
Okay, is there?
No, there is not. there is not much difference in Excelsa, but we have here 56.9 in comparison to yet now the Arabica, which is it is almost the same. Like it's almost the same. It's just in between the two Libericas. Again, it's like they're not big difference. We're not myth busters when it comes to the Canephora, which is higher. That's a known thing, but else they're quite in the same field.
Yeah. Maybe one thing I have to say when it comes to the process of measuring caffeine, it can have a big difference on the way you are preparing the samples. So, for example, if you have an espresso in extreme or a filter coffee, then just by the way you prepare the coffees, the difference is super high. It can have an influence how hot the coffees are or the TDS they have. Therefore, you should always compare it within a sample where you did the process the same, like we did here. Just maybe for you to say, because sometimes you might find on a website of one person a caffeine figure for a coffee, and then on a website of another person another caffeine figure, which can be quite different. So you cannot compare this. If you want to compare coffees, you really have to do it the same. Use, for example, a standard cupping procedure as we did here. And when we did this process, we had to find out that it's not super spectacular, because this coffee has about the same in caffeine. But at the end, it's a learning. And what it tells me, then when we would do a conclusion of everything we've been talking about here, is that there are not really big functional differences when it comes to the coffees. So don't take Liberica or Excelsa because they have super high caffeine content or super low caffeine content. Really focus on the taste of the coffee. Take the pleasure that is coming from the taste, because that's quite different. So yeah, that's a bit of learning from me.
Yeah, also for me, I mean, like to just have a little look into another chapter. Obviously, the prices they're different, because we have learned in the other video that we did before that it is also way more labor with the Liberica and the Excelsa, because also we do not have yet the industry that already worked, has a long time of experience with how to process and everything. So there is a price difference already. But if you just look at the beverage, at the coffee, all of those coffees have their place on the market. It is really interesting to actually taste the differences. There is differences. And I believe also now that we are going to have to look at more biodiversity when it comes to coffee. We will find them more and more together in a rack in a shop, coffee shop probably, and you can buy the differences and try to enjoy the flavors and the taste differences.
Yeah.
And maybe also the prices will, with time, when we have more knowledge here and maybe less here, then they will assimilate and they will go in the same direction. But again, it is a plant. Every plant has influence of the region, of the species, the variety, and most of all, also the farmer, the people who work for it. So in the end, all of this concludes how it tastes and what the outcome is of the beverage, of the coffee.
Yeah, sure. And I really see a role in the coffee world for all of these coffees. I really see these Libericas in the range of these specialty Arabicas, very fruity, very sweet coffees. I would say from what we tasted here, I would see the Excelsa about in the range of more classic, or for a broader audience, more classic coffee taste that can go into a Brazil Robusta blend quality. That would be my learning from what we did here. But I'm pretty sure in any way that we will hear a lot about Liberica, Excelsa, and other coffee species in the future. And I'm pretty sure we will hear much more also about Toby in the future. One thing that we will try to do for sure, still this summer, is a video where we go then into roasting this species of coffee together with Dario. So make sure that you follow the channel in order not to miss that. Mm-hmm. And one thing at the end, I would like to give you the opportunity just to talk about where people could find more information or even could get access to this kind of coffee.
We will have in the future several open cuppings event in Zurich, in Basel, and obviously I would also come to your place if you invite me. Then obviously you can go to our website, kebunmalaya.com, or Einzigartig website. On our social medias you can find us, and then we will keep on telling the adventures we go through with getting to know these coffee species, and I hope a lot of other species as well, like, as I said, a biodiversity in coffee. But I'll take you with me on this journey, and I hope to see you there.
Thanks a lot. So yeah, you will find all the links in the description. On the website from Toby Kebun Malaya, you will have the possibility to contact Toby if you want to order some green coffee. You also find roasting profiles for the Caffeine Nano and the Alio Bullet. And for now, I would say, yeah, thanks a lot, Toby, for everything you're doing for the coffee world and also for coming here. Thanks a lot, Toby.
Thank you so much.